Okay, lads, we'll get stuck in. So this morning we're joined by Connor McAuley. Connor, welcome to the Construction Business Blueprint Breakfast. Connor, Move at Pace is the latest company, and Connor, me and Connor met. I don't even know how we actually came across paths in the end, but
probably Instagram.
Yeah, had a good chat there recently. Had a coffee. So Connor's background is he had a successful exit. I know I sort of shared it into the group with everybody. Started off a business just in 9 years from you yourself in a bedroom to 40 plus staff and a successful exit. So we're just going to have a quick brief talk through. Some of the clients in the room have had an opportunity or have been approached about acquisitions, about people buying the companies and things like that. So touched base with Connor and had a conversation just around our values sort of aligned in terms of what makes a business attractive to external investment or acquisition, and it's everything that we're doing inside the program here. And it's something that I feel, like always, obviously I'm always extremely biased and focused on just construction. So it's important, like obviously I feel that there's certain conversations that don't happen in this industry enough. And when these opportunities come, we're like a deer in a rabbit in the headlights or whatever you want to call it. And we're caught off guard. So that's why it's important to have these conversations early. So when this comes, it's something you can work towards. It's an option. Again, it's not just day to day, week to week. There's much more that could potentially be on the horizon for anybody in this room. So we're just going to quickly go through Connor's story. Connor, just want to introduce yourself to everybody in the room. And yep.
So my name's Connor. I started a business in 2009 called Kaizen. Some of you won't know that company, and I appreciate that. It was a print company, a design agency, and a branding studio, and a web development company. So we'll talk about branding and all the rest as part of this if you want later on, because I know there's a couple of people talked about that. But I started in the back bedroom, and I'm fucking nobody. Really, I'm just a normal fella who had an idea and put a bit of work in, put a lot of work in, built the business up, and in 2020, somebody else stuck their hand up and says, "We're interested in buying you." And the company, we always build our company for sale, because building a really good business and building one that's ready for sale are just exactly the same journey. So they are. And if you can lift your business up and say, we're profitable, we've got clean books, we've got all our processes in place, somebody will just lift that off you and go, right, we're going to pay you the price that you want. And that was the story. So 16th of March, 2020, I'm sitting in the solicitors ready to sign. Nobody turned up on the other side of the table. The world went into lockdown that exact day. And my business was going through the floor. All my staff are asking me all the questions. Well, what's going to happen? I opened the books and said, here's what we have in our bank account, 300 grand. That money will be run done before you guys are out of job. And we spoke to them, had a good conversation, and we came out of COVID far better as a business because of that. We pivoted and did all the social distancing materials. Our studio was flying because sport was the last thing to finish and the first thing to start back up. And in November then, the company came to us and says, we're ready to go again. Same price, same deal. We've been looking at your books the whole way through, and you saw we had a good business. Deal went through on the 30th of November 2020, and I exited in 2022 there, the same time 2022. Then I retired at the age of 40 and 4 months. And then about 2 months after that, somebody put their hand up and says, Connor, come have a chat. I was sitting, I don't know if you remember 2 winters ago, that it was pissing down from September to March. Every single day, it pissed down. And I thought retirement was going to be class, that you'd get to go play golf every day and you'd be chilling out. I got bored. And if you're all entrepreneurs in this room, which you are, you think like an entrepreneur, you're always on, you're always thinking, there's always opportunity. Your problem is stopping yourself from the opportunity. And I was sitting in the house over that winter going, there's more to this. There has to be more to this. Because my daughter's in school, so you can't go do all your traveling that you expected to do. You still do a lot of it, but you can't go away in the term time. And so a couple of competitors reached out to me and says, Connor, would you come and have a chat? And I started then this little agency called Move at Pace. And I spoke to Marc about this a couple of weeks ago. We think like business exactly the same. He focuses on construction, I focus on creative agencies. And that's my market, because that's what I know. But there's commonality in business. You're a service business. 99% of your job is providing a service. Yes, there's an output at the end of that. The same with us. It was design, it was websites. And so while every business is different, there will be commonality in the challenges you have. Hands up if you've got staffing issues. Hands up if you've got capacity issues, right? Fuck's sake, I had 40 staff with 25% of them off sick at one time, right? We were in this period of growth where we were just going like that there, and we had all the issues that you have: mental health, sickness, divorces, other stuff going on. the full works of crap in our business. And sure, that falls on your shoulders. So it does. And we had to figure the way out of that, as will you. And it's good that you have Marc and conversations that you have with people around this table, because they're all experiencing the exact same problems, just at different stages of business. And the same with us. We had the same problems that you have. Now, I was laughing the other day because I don't know the hammer from a nail, and I can't plug or wire a plug. I don't know your industry, but I know the problems you're facing in your industry, and I know what a good exit looks like, and it's exactly the same. And today, the conversation for me is about telling you the opportunity. Actually, so I told you that I retired. I was able to retire before selling my business, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about. If you think about spending money and your lifestyle and what that costs, I'm sure a lot of you will find, like I do, that it's easier to earn more money than to reduce your spending, because you've got families, you've got lives, you've got everything, you've got built-in costs to your life. But over the 10 years before I exited, I was like, nah, I want to retire at some point. And I spent all that time educating myself, saving money and investing that money, which is why I talk about pensions and all the rest. I'm not a financial advisor, but that's me. I enjoy that. Yeah. And so the sale, the exit of my business was my cherry on top. That was, and I know a lot of you will be going, my business is my pension, because I hear that from people every single day. The reality is that an exit is such a small percentage, and a successful exit is even smaller percentage of proper exits in business. Most businesses just go out of business. And that's something you have to be so mindful of, because you're working with Marc, and the whole focus of this is to build a business, not for you guys to build a team of freelancers or a team of contractors that are working for you. It's to build a business that can fund your lifestyle, that can create financial freedom for yourselves, and that can run without you. Because if I ask you around the room now, I can guarantee you there's maybe one or two of you can go away on holiday without picking up the phone for 2 weeks. No? Yeah. And that's a problem. That is a problem, but the fact that we're chatting about that can be overcome. Mm-hmm. And in 2015 was the pivot point in our business. We had a really good business from 2009 to 2015. We just went like that. And from 2015, it just went like that, because we focused on maturing the business. And that's a big thing that I would talk about. It's like, okay, hard work got you to this point. That's not going to get you to the next phase. You need to put the systems in, the processes in. You need to have a plan. So
that's where we're talking about working on the business rather than in the business. So being busy rather than, when you're then planning for what you're doing. So yeah. So talk just about that. So talk about setting up. You said about setting up for scaling systems and processes. So what does that business look like? Setting up to scale, like what does that involve? What is within that business? Yeah.
So all the shit that you deal with every single day, right? You know the problems in your business straight away. Everyone in here's smart. Everyone in here's a grafter. Everyone else will put in the work. But at some point, the work will only get you to here. Yeah. And you need to have the team around you that will deliver the work when you're not there. The team around you, I'm respectful. The staff are your team, but in reality, they're leverage. The only job that they fulfill in your business is to make you more money. And that's the truth. However, if you step back and go, well, we have to bring them along on our journey. We have to keep them, you have to dangle the carrot and keep them on the pipe for as long as you can to make sure you get as much value out of them. But by the same respect, you want somebody to work with you for a long time and see the benefit of working with you. Yep. But from an entrepreneur's perspective, they're there to make me money. And so what do you have to do? You have to put processes in place. Somebody was saying there, it's not hard to get business. It's not. But what do you do with that lead when it comes in? Well, does it go into your CRM, or does it just go into your WhatsApp? Does it go into your invoice or your quoting system? Does that job that process get followed up properly? And do you follow up in 6 months' time when they said, no, it's not for me right now? No, because you're too busy. Yeah. But as Marc says, and I say the same thing, you're leaving money behind, because 6 months from now, you've forgotten about that because 100 other things have come into your head. But if you had a proper system, a proper process there, well, then you could follow up on that and you can add more value to it. And I know I heard somebody saying about brand and website earlier on, they need to get their website updated. All I look at this is, we focused on when we started, we were a print company. People didn't know us for branding. We had a really good studio. And in 2015, we changed and we matured our business. We positioned ourselves as the branding agency. We focused on becoming the best, the most well-known, getting the right type of projects. And I tell this a lot, but my first logo sold for 150 quid. And when I sold the business, we were selling 20 grand brands, 20 grand websites every single week. So that was the difference. Now, obviously they weren't the same project. We elevated our position in the marketplace. We showed our working out. We did our case studies. It wasn't videos back then, but it was animations. And we were then positioned that every time somebody came to us, well, we just put the price up. Like that was a fucking secret in our whole process. We showed our working out, price is this. Showed our working out, price was this. Until such time that somebody said, nope, can't do that. Nope, can't do that. Too dear for us. And then you have the choice then to bring that price down. And so you're working smarter for your money. You're not working as hard for your money, and you're getting the right type of customer, which is, who I can guarantee you now that you've all got that customer who goes, I didn't want to pay that. Will you do it for X? Or will you take the price down? Or how can we cut the costs? But if you had customers coming to you with the right budget, with the right spec, and not dealing, all you had to do was do the work and not deal with the shite around it, you'd be very, very happy.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we touched on inside the program about a couple of things you touched on there. So positioning yourself and showing how you're different than your competitors. So what makes you stand out? What makes you better than others? What makes you, that KPI like Dan touched on, he's known in the industry now for being a certain thing. So it's positioning yourself that way, and then your marketing, focusing on not just joinery and this thing, it's being bespoke at this. What are you a specialist in? What makes you different and better from other people? And then what we said there about the prices, that's where you're talking about the high value client versus the low value client. And that's what we obviously talk about in here. Not every client's a good client, not every job's a good job. And it's about like that, the right clients will pay the right money that exist. And obviously, Dan, you know that well too. So
I'm a greedy fucker, being completely honest. I want all the business. And I took on all the business, even the bad clients, even the ones that you had risk on. And you de-risk them as much as possible. You take the money up front, you tell them the process. They still fucking try and circumvent it all the time. But if you want that business, you can still take it. But does opportunity cost, does it take you away from the higher value clients? Yes. If you don't have the systems, it takes you further away, and you have to put those processes in place. And back in 2015, that's what we did. We went, okay, we were running about our office with these yellow sheets, yellow pieces of paper with all our job dockets on it, and we were running about 1,000 projects a month at that time. And literally, they were going up 3 floors. We bought a building in the Lisburn Road, and literally, we were going up 3 floors, down 3 floors with these sheets. They were getting lost. They were getting everything you can imagine, right? It literally just was this. We were a print company, and they were just fucking everywhere. And you're running around on a Friday afternoon, scrambling to pull this pile of sheets together so you can invoice them. You can imagine that. And then what we did is we put systems in place. We put in a CRM, we put in a project management system.
So what is a CRM for anybody who doesn't know what a CRM is?
So it's a customer relationship management tool. You can have it on an app. So big ones are HubSpot, but they're very, very intricate. There's one called Atio, which is like just a really basic CRM. And what you need to do in that is you need to record any lead that comes in, customer details, company details, and the deal. What does that look like? And if you only do those things after this chat, you're miles ahead of your competition. Because all you're doing is taking that out of your head, putting it into a system, that becomes your second brain, and all you have to do is dip into that. Your non-negotiable time is 30 minutes in the morning, dip into your CRM and go, who do I need to follow up with?
Because there's a good point there that a lot of people fall down on. We talk about social media and likes and clicks and whatever else. Like that's all well and good, but what of those likes and clicks and follows and shares are actually turning into sales? Yep. So that's where the CRM and things that got tracking those. So anybody who's doing your social media, anybody who's doing your marketing should be tracking that for you, not just video and whatever else. That it's about how you're converting that traffic. That's what's vital there.
You have to turn the unknown into known. And social media, the algorithm can change in the morning. You get no views, you get no inquiries. Now, I know some of you, I see all the guys in the trades that are doing it on TikTok, and I see their numbers, and I'm going, fuck, that's mad that they're getting such virality of their content. I don't get that. Like, my content's boring as fuck. But the people who come through and go, okay, I like what you said, it resonated with me, I need your help.
Yep.
And that's what you want, and you'll get that en masse if you do it right. But then what I do is I bring that into my CRM, because you have to turn those people from just people on the internet into potential leads. And then you have to follow up on those leads, and you have to have a process for following up those leads. Like our business, and I know these numbers are going to sound small in comparison to some of the numbers that you guys deal with, but our business, first of every month, we started at zero. We were doing 220K a month, every single month, from zero, every month. So our sales process was nailed. Now, we were selling time, primarily, so that was an hourly rate. And today I would do retainer business, and I know that doesn't work in your game, but you have to figure out your sales process and how that works for you so that you can maximize the return on your time. Because there's no point just doing all this and just sitting steady. Like, we all want more money. And this is how you make more money. It's being better at your sales, being better at your customer service. Like, one thing that we did, which changed our business entirely, was we set times and timelines for the amount of time that it would take for a response. So how many guys in here get a message and go, fuck, I'll deal with that later? Don't answer it. or you forget about it because 100 other things come your direction. It's normal. Like, I get that. But whenever you set a process, okay, whenever somebody calls in, they get a response within an hour. And I know you're going, nah, it's too close. Well, all you have to do is ring them, go, I got your response, or I got your email, and I'm going to reply to you in 24 hours. That's all you have to say. You've bought yourself time. You might need to go inspect the job. You might need to get prices and all the rest. You've given yourself enough time to do that. And it could be 48 hours. But as long as that customer knows and has that expectation, then they're just like, okay, well, they've said what they're going to do. They've done what they've done that on the other side. I trust when I see that quote that that's going to be right then. Or you have more chance of being trusted. And all you want to do is be more trusted than the person beside you. And at the right price, and be the right person at the right price at the right time. And I guarantee you, like in every trade that we work with, and every trade that I see is most people don't even do that. It's a just follow when they're ready. But again, we want more money. We want more business. We want the right business. How do you get it? You do your process.
So talk about then leading through the business. So obviously you said you started the scale. So did you always know what you needed to do, like from the beginning, that in the back room in your house to get to the exit? Was that, you said that was always the plan?
It was always a plan. The business was set up for sale.
Like what lessons did you, or what things or challenges did you have throughout that process that got you to that and achieving it in 9 years?
The business was set up for sale, so I always knew that I wanted to exit the business. And even if you look at my clients, they're all like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd sell. I thought you'd pass that down through the generations." We were just working our tribe off, and I actually posted about this the other day. It was about 2014, and I was fucking busted. I'd gone, you know, when you've got one of those days. Somebody said that I had one of those days where it was like, "Fuck this," and you want to rip the roof off. Clients were being dicks, staff were being dicks. You know, it's everything just at the one time, and it got on top of you because when you have to deal with yourself. And I was like, nah, this is done, and this is done. And I was chatting to my brother. So my brother came into the business about 6 months after I started, and he's still there today after exit. But what happened was, I said to him, I need to figure this out. We need to figure this out. And I was strategy, he was more sales. We both were aligned in our journey, but we're very different in terms of our skill set. And I then took a month out of the business to go and travel. I went to Malaga for the month, and I spent that entire month working full-time, like completely full-time working from Malaga, working on the business. We set our processes, we set our plans. It was a 2-pager docket, like, or it was nothing really. And everything else went like this here on the plan, but the plan was always there. And it was a 5-year plan, 5 years for exit. And if you look back at it today, and I don't have a copy of it because you hand everything over on exit, but I know exactly what it said. And from here to here was pretty much dead on. But as I said, the journey just went like that the whole way around because you know all that shit that went on in business, you teams, you false start when you hire 2 people and you think they're going to be brilliant and they just flatline your business, that work against you rather than for you. Then whenever we got to 2020 and we had our management in place, we put 3 managers in, we put a general manager in place, our business was running itself. To the point where, yes, they were wheeling me out for the big pitches. You know, I was there to support them, but I was really, really particular with my time. Yes, everybody comes back to it. So, you know that mummy-daddy conversation? They don't like what answer you give, so they go to the other person. Well, that happened with our GM, and it just, like, even though they were coming to me and I knew the answer, you have to be so strict and go, speak to them. It's their problem. They have to deal with this. And then they were sending you a message going, what do you say? But that's fine, because they have to learn to do that and have to stand on their own 2 feet for it. But when you do that, you have a business. You have something that somebody will pick up and be able to buy. Because the biggest risk that you have as owner-operators is that they won't buy you. They're not buying you. And the minute you come out of the business, there's no business.
So that's something very important. So there's 2 things there you mentioned, and one of them is that I always say to the guys here is boundaries.
Yep.
So having boundaries in place, like whenever you're putting that hierarchy in place and a manager in place, and then somebody below them is trying to go through, it's like, you know, it's diverting them back to where they're supposed to be going. And again, but obviously communication is a big part of that. So that needs to be communicated to the team, what the hierarchy is, who's in place, why they're there, and what their roles and responsibilities are. So that was the boundary side of things. And the last point you touched on there, just remind me what it was again.
I've lost it now.
The last one. So anyway, the boundaries in place, and you touched on something else. I can't remember what it was there.
But go back to the boundaries.
Yeah.
Whenever you have those people in place, you're going to have resistance, right? So anything that you have in your business now, and you make change, they all just go, it's just like, fuck, I don't like this, I'm away, right? You've seen it yourself, like, and you will lose good people because of it. Because again, it's the same thing. The people who got you to here, you're a startup, you're scrappy, your mates, you're having pints in the office, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing because it's just scrappy business. It's just getting to that point. But then when you become a proper business, which we had to mature, it's like all the things that got you here, all the people that got you here, don't necessarily want the change and don't see the reason why you're changing. And so when you bring in that new hierarchy and that new team, things will, it's a period of plateau for a little bit.
Yeah, training wheels coming off, yeah.
And we had all the problems. We had staff, I don't like her now, or Connor, I still want to speak to you. And yes, you still will speak to me. I'm always in the business, but by the same respect, this person has a role to give me more time to do the things that I need to do. And I know there was somebody saying about having non-negotiable time, that 30 minutes or an hour in the morning to do the tasks. Like, how many of you guys get to do that every single day or once a week? Very few. And I can tell you that I used to get up at 3 a.m. Now, it wasn't because it was healthy or anything like that. It was fucking stress of getting the projects out the door. And that was every single morning. I was up for 3 o'clock every morning, completely stressed out of my head, getting the work done, getting to the gym by 6 to try and de-stress a wee bit, and into the office for 7. And that was just to keep the wheels turning. And the people who come in after that didn't see all the work that you've had to do to get the business to this new level. And even today, our business, or it's not my business anymore, but the business that I owned is doing just as good as I did without me being there. But it's because of all the processes, exactly. And obviously there's new management in there, and there's a new leader and the new owner, so they're pushing it on. And I'm delighted to see that, because that's always what you want.
So that was the point you touched on then. It was because sometimes the guys would say, in construction especially, that them as the business owner, that's who the client wants. The client wants me on the site. The client wants me, and I've been dragged into that several times myself. But it's like having that boundary in place as well. But the difference between what you think your client wants and what your client actually wants is two different things. So the client wants a result, and then the same as the investor wants the business. They don't want the business owner, because obviously unless there's some sort of deal or whatever else. But like you said there, would that business, would Kaizen Print has been as attractive if you were still the main cog in the wheel?
No, you'd got a fraction of the price, because they would have seen that.
Yeah.
And obviously, yes, there's always relationships. You've got those historic clients. 2017, and I stopped giving my mobile out to clients because there was a company there to deal with it. Like, there was nothing. And even when you're handing over clients, it was always like, right, this is Glenda, and Glenda's going to look after your account. But if there's any problems, you ring me. There was never any problems because Glenda was great. Glenda's the manager in there now, and she is running the show and from a sales perspective, and she's brilliant. And it just, yes, you're going to kiss a load of frogs on your journey to find the right people in your team, but you will find them, and they will put those processes in place. But yes, like on the other side, the value then of the business is determined by the business being able to function without you. Primarily, a big part of that, because like even if you think about the clients that you have today that only want to deal with you, what percentage of the revenue do they bring in? If it's significant, that's a problem. You have to de-risk your business. And you should be de-risking your business anyway, like in our business. And I know it's again slightly different industries, but
same principle.
We had 5% maximum revenue any one client would have contributed to our business, and that was safe. Like that's a gold medal position. But I work with clients today where some of their businesses that they work with are contributing 50% of their revenue. They're at real risk, and so the first thing that I'm doing is looking down, going, right, let's spread those wings out. Let's devalue that client. Yes, they're still going to be an anchor tenant to the business, but they don't have to be the anchor tenant. And it's to look at all those things. So, if you do fuck all else after this, is go back and get a coffee and have a glass of wine or a beer of the night and go, what would a buyer say to me? What are the problems they're going to spot in my business? And that's your first action points, right? Is it me? Is it my skill set? Who do I have to put in place to replace me? What is it going to cost? And I know we're going to talk about the cost and the value of your business and the EBITDA figure and stuff like that. Does anybody know what EBITDA is? Neither do I, but it's how they measure the value of your business. And basically, it's the profit after taxes, and then they take your salary out, and then they add the salary in to replace you. And that's a real basic version of it. But if you think about that, how much is it going to cost to replace you?
Millions.
Yeah, exactly. How many jobs do you do in your business? You do accounts primarily, you do sales, you're on the tools. If you think about trying to replace you in your business today, there's maybe 3 or 4 jobs, maybe more. And if you were to put a figure on each of those roles that you would have to replace, and you look at the profit after that, fuck, it's a change.
Talk about then, so just the process. Obviously it was a long process of when you were first approached. Did you go out seeking? Did somebody come to you? Like how did you get into that position that somebody decided to put their hand up and want to buy your business?
Great question. So in 2015, we went around all the M&A firms and built our websites. So all the mergers and acquisition firms, we went around, and we were in this circle.
So they are the investors.
They're the people who either the investors go to, or that they're investing in businesses as well. So we were like, okay, if we want to be in the circle of influence of people who are buying and selling businesses, we need to go and be in that circle. So we went and we built websites for the company that actually ended up brokering the deal, their financial team, and another 2 or 3 other massive money men in Belfast, or money agencies, let's say, in Belfast. So we got this name in that circle pretty quickly, so that whenever the company eventually came and said, we're looking to buy a digital agency, we were the only ones that they knew. We were the first people that they approached. And we were approached a year before by another company, again, through that same broker, let's say. And that didn't go anywhere, really. Again, it was a good idea, good opportunity, good learning for us. Didn't go anywhere, and you will find that as well. You're going to see all of these opportunities come your way when you're positioned like that, but some of them are not right for you. Some of them will just get to the goal line. Like as I told you, we were sitting in the solicitors on the 16th of March, and nobody turned up, and that's heartbreaking. Like you're ready there. You've already the money spent. And literally, well, not quite. But in your head, it's they're the Ferrari. But you don't. You have to wait till the money. A sale's not a sale till the money's in the bank.
Yep. Don't count what you haven't got in your hand. Yep.
Exactly. But then what happened was when we were approached, you go through this. It's like a beauty parade. So it is, where they hurt you a wee bit and they tell you all the big figures and all the rest, and then they do the sums out. And then you have a wee bit of an arm wrestle, and then they go open the books, and literally it's show your knickers and everything. There's not a thing in your business that they will not look at, because they have to. Like even, we dealt with print and ink, and they wanted to see the fire safety considerations for each of the inks that we held in stock. They wanted to know every piece of stock that we held. They wanted to know the salaries of every one of our team. They looked at our zero accounts almost daily, it felt like, because they wanted to know the health of our business. And again, they look at everything, but why would they not? Because they want to know that your business is secure. You will be interviewed by their accountant, you will be interviewed by them, because they want to know your true expectations of this. They want to know why you were up for sale in the first place. But in our business, actually, when we were, just to give other side of this, when we were working with other brands, they were positioning themselves for sale, and they set up their brand in the colors of the companies that they wanted to buy them. They were almost earmarking themselves to the companies, and it's always good to know who might buy you and to be on their radar and have conversations. You're not up for sale. If anybody asks you if you're up for sale, no, but we'll have a conversation. So you don't ever want to seem that you're too keen, ever, because then, and you always want to sell from a position of strength. So we were so fortunate. Like we did really well. We were one of those success stories in COVID, because we worked, like I remember sitting with a pallet of wine in the house. It was fucking that's not even a lie. My dad works at a drink company, so it came on a pallet. But my carry-out, I was sitting with a bottle of wine one night and going, what do you do? We all sat in March of 2020 going, what's next? And we decided that night that we were going to do COVID social distancing materials, and our business changed literally overnight into this powerhouse of.
I think we all wanted to do that at the time.
Yeah, we won the education authority contracts, the hospital contracts, TransLink contracts. We won all because we were first to market. We literally a bottle of wine. It was a dear bottle of wine, but it paid for itself over and over. And because of that, our business was so secure, and we did very well because of it. But yeah.
And what was able? So another wee point there is, like, I know we're labour on the same point, but if your business wasn't in that position, so that didn't happen by luck, by chance. You were strategic in that.
Yeah.
When COVID came and those things happened, that's important. Obviously, you had to have the headspace to be in that position to be able to work on the business and think strategically.
Yeah.
But if you were still in that early days involved in the weeds, would you be able to think that way and have that headspace, do you think?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think I'd have been mentally the right person for that, because we would have just been scrapping for whatever came through the door.
Yeah. So just go through the process of, like, how long did it take from being approached by the investor? Was it plain sailing? Like, what was the stages? How did that? I know you talked about going through the accounts, but how long was the process?
So August 2019 through to November 2020.
Okay.
So about a year. But I've heard of deals going through in weeks.
Really?
So I have. And I think, we should have been about 6 months, but COVID's running for good measure.
And was it the first investor that came that bought in the end, or how many?
Well, it was, yeah. So the person who met us originally was the MD of the company.
Okay.
And he had the authority to approach us, and he had the board's backing to approach us. But then what you do is you meet the board and you go through and you have conversations with them as well. It really depends on who's going to buy you, and who you think's going to buy your business. If some of you have ideas of like a multi-billion pound company buying you, or a multi-million pound, or that there's a merger or acquisition, it could be very informal. And what I would say is that, the devil is in the detail with all of this. If it's not crystal clear to you what you're going to get, what your expectations are, and what their expectations are, then it's not for you.
So how do you know then? How do you know what your business is worth? How would anybody here know or figure that out?
So the term is EBITDA. That's the figure that you have to figure out, and that really is the profit of your business after the take your salary out and to put the salary in to replace you. And that'll give you a figure, right? And for some people that'll look low, because you're going to have to replace yourself, and that's why you have to build a business around you to make that number more attractive, to make it more profitable. And then what they do is they'll give you a multiple, and the multiple of that number is your final figure primarily. So that final figure, some agencies, some businesses will get a 1-for-1 multiple. So the profit's what they get, and others will get 10 or 12 as a multiple. And that goes, oh, it's squeaky bum time. You're like, oh, that sounds good. And everything that Marc will tell you and everything that I tell my clients is you have to build the value in your business to increase that multiple.
Yeah.
So in our business, I can't tell you the multiple that we got, but it wasn't either side of that, let's say. What we got was because we had intellectual property. We had our own CRM built for ourselves. We had recurring clients, that we had multi-year contracts and tenders in our business. Or we had our team who were able to run the business without us. And everything, like if you have a £500,000 EBITDA and it's a multiple of 2, you're going to get £1 million. If you have a multiple of 5, it's 2.5 million. So that multiple, while it could only be 0.25% difference, is very important. And everything you need to do from the moment you decide that you're going to build the business is focus on that multiple and focus on that value.
Is there an industry standard for any specific industry what that EBITDA multiple would be? Like for construction, would it be 3 to 5, or is it completely variant, or maybe you're not sure?
I don't know what it is in construction, but I know like in tech firms it can be 8 to 12, because they have SaaS, they have recurring business and all the rest. So I would imagine that it would be on the lower scale for construction, unless you have tendered work or if you have recurring business. And your job is to figure that out.
Yep.
I know if you have your accountants, they will be more attuned to what the multiples will be in your industry. And I know that our accountant was very forthcoming with that information and saying that it was a good multiple, or it was a bad multiple, or what we should be asking for from their experience.
Yeah.
Actually, the best thing you can do in all of this is get a good accountant, because they're the ones that are going to be fighting your corner from a finance perspective.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are going to be looking at your books. And I don't know if you do management accounts at this stage of your businesses, but when you get to a certain level, when you're planning for exit, you'll want to do management accounts just so that your books are completely clear across the board. And it's not that I mean clear, that anybody can lift them up and go, here's the health of your business. Here's the forecast for the next 6 months. Here's what that's going to mean from terms of recruitment, retention, profitability, and your own cash flow. Because if they can see growth and an opportunity for growth, and if they can see stability in your business, that's what they want. They have to be sure. Like if you imagine somebody's going to pay you many pounds, they want to know that money's going to come back to them at some point. And we have to be so mindful of that, and you have to be respectful. Like, sure, you did the same yourself. That's what they're buying.
Yeah. So the finances was their first protocol for what they looked at in the business, and then operations came second. And so they obviously look at the figure, look at the finances, and then they dig deep into the operations of how it all works.
Yep.
So it's fair to say that if the finances were in place but the operations weren't, there would be no deal.
Oh, 100%. Like it's all one and the same for them. Like they look at your tenders, they look at your contracts, they look at absolutely every piece of paperwork in your business to understand where the risk is. And the only thing that their side's looking at, their solicitor and their accountant, are looking at the risk. They are the entrepreneurs on the other side are looking at the opportunity. So they're going, yeah, fucking do it. And the solicitors are going, no, let's look at this. And that's again exactly the same. You do it yourself. Yes. You have to be so respectful of that. And we were, and it was always a good conversation. We all sat around the table at the very start and said, look, if this doesn't work out, it's lovely to meet you and all the rest. But we're going to try and make it work. And it was the same for them too. And ultimately it worked for all of us.
Yeah. In terms of the money side of things, so the aspect of having your accounts and all right. Obviously, a challenge, and most people in construction as well, I find, is that the finances and the tax side of things. It's always the accountant's always like trying and pay as little as possible, etc., with taxes and things like that. But in order to make your business look attractive, do you have to have a different approach then?
Yes, and that's a great point. So if they're only looking at your figures. And if you've reduced your profit, like they will account for pensions, by the way, so pensions and all the rest, that's all just assumed as normal. But if you've, spent money to spend money's sake, for money spending's sake, you've less profit. You're going to have a less profit on the books. And if you do that for a couple of years, so yes, you have to repair your accounts for this process as well. Be a bit more lean on the spending for a bit if that's what it takes. But again, you can't reduce the quality of your service, and that's to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah.
But yes, preparation in your accounts is key as well.
So it's important then, obviously, when you're having that approach to have the sort of vision, the North Star in place of the reason why we're doing this is because of this and it'll pay off later down the line.
100%.
Brilliant.
There's no cash jobs in those years. Those are the things in particular that in many trades, I'm not saying anybody does that, but in many trades that would be a consideration that everything goes through the books in those years to show true profitability.
Okay, and if you were to do it all again, given the whole 9-year stint, would you do it again?
100%. I'd work harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say that to everybody, is like I did work my tripe off for many years, and yes, I had all the problems that everybody has with working with a team and building a business over many years. Do it again in a heartbeat. So as I said, like I'm on the other side of this now, and I only work with the people that I want to work with, and I only do the bits and pieces that I want to do. I travel a ton and do the things, and it is worth it. Like I live a very quiet life, but it's a life that I want to live. So it is, and that's the biggest problem that I will tell you is on the other side of it is you have to retire to something. You have to move on to something, and I find that I'm really good at making money. I'm really good at business, and I like that still. So
Enjoy
I do that. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what would you say the biggest through the whole thing? If you could pick one lesson? No, that's a big overarching question. It was a long time. Mm-hmm. The biggest lesson or the biggest thing you took away from that whole process? What do you think it would be? Just to end on that.
Yeah, hard work. Yeah, you guys all see this yourselves. Like the generation coming behind us, the people coming behind us don't have the same work ethic. No. Right? And that's the truth. And like I think that's fucking great because it puts us in a better position. There's a slight sense of entitlement, and that's not to devalue. I respect the fact that they want work-life balance, but work-life balance for me comes after you've achieved what you want to achieve and do what you want to do. And I'm very respectful of that. That doesn't work for other people, but that works for me.
Excellent. Anybody got any questions for Connor?
Pardon?
Dead on, Connor. Anything else you want to add for this morning?
No, I'm good.
Appreciate that. That was excellent. Hopefully everyone benefited from that. Lovely. Thank you.
Cheers, lads.